Hi. I'm very excited. I'm actually coming all the way from Colombia, South America for this. So I'm very excited. I knew I was going to get called. I deserve it. So
We didn't mean to put deserving as an outside the vortex concept. You do deserve it. And when you know you deserve it, you're in the vortex. And when you know it, the universe cannot defy you. Interesting, isn't it?
it is. Well, I have a lot of questions. A lot of them, I'm going to start with what I think is the most important. I've heard you for about 2 years, and my life has improved a lot since I started hearing it. I heard it because of my mom. She's here with me. But there's some stuff that I still don't understand, even though I've heard it and I try to answer it myself. It's mainly about purpose against, in my opinion, against what you actually can create. Because I've heard that you create your own reality, but then I also hear stuff about purpose and how you have a purpose before you come into your life.
You do, and it's to create your own reality.
Okay.
That's your purpose. Your purpose is to create your own reality. Your purpose is to joyously experience the expansion that this time-space reality carves out. If you really want to understand purpose in the way that you felt it coming in, is the difference between the way you feel when you're going on vacation and the way you feel when you're going to work.
Okay.
In other words, we would like it if they felt the same to you, but in most cases they do not. Most humans outside the vortex would describe purpose as something that I should do for some cause or for some improvement, and while they would feel that going on vacation is just to selfishly satisfy their own interests. And we want you to understand that from the non-physical perspective, you must not separate those two. In other words, you don't come forth and become an author or a painter or a sculptor because your planet needs another painting or another book or another sculpture. It doesn't. You come for the joy and the thrill of the process of the evolvement of the painting and the book and the sculpture. You come for the joy of the expansion, you see. The word purpose is really tricky because expansion is inevitable, and purpose makes it sound like if you don't do specific things, expansion won't happen, and that's not true. Expansion will happen. Exposure to life causes expansion whether you are purposeful about it or not. In other words, we call that creating by default. Contrast causes you to launch rockets, and the source part of you rides those rockets, and new generations that are born into this time-space reality continue to ride that rocket, and they receive the benefit of the contrast that you've lived. In other words, the expansion is inevitable. So we don't want to say you came for the purpose of expansion because, duh. Esther likes that word. The expansion is inevitable. So let's not call it purpose. You know what your purpose is? Joy. Your purpose is for alignment. Your purpose is for the joy. The purpose of your life is joy. It's joy. Everything else is a given. That's what you're reaching for, you see. And that's why Source remains Source. In other words, Source has the ability to see all that is. But when you're sick, Source doesn't look at your sickness. Source looks at the wellness that you carved out of the sickness and holds such joyous anticipation in your manifestation of it that there is never any deviation in the vibration of it, which is what causes the signal to be strong enough that you can catch wind of it if you are joyously oriented.
Okay, I want to be a little bit specific about it. I heard an SCD and it was very interesting to me that when people come, for example, autistic or gay, it's their purpose to be that way so that they're stronger and they don't get influenced by what other people think.
We understand what you're getting at, and you're really going to like this. We say often that there is deliberate intention from the non-physical perspective about those kinds of things because that consciousness wants a different kind of exposure for a different kind of launching, but it's all for the purpose of that joy in coming back into alignment with it. In other words, there are many who are coming forth not normal by whatever you have decided that normal is, because they understand that in a society that is so determined to socialize everyone who gets there, that there is a sort of rampage toward conformity that defeats your whole reason for being. In other words, it's your variety that is your balance. It is the variety that is the strength. It is the variety that is responsible for this magnificent expansion. And so there are many coming forth saying, I'm going to be just different enough that your laws will not contain me. You're secular, irrational, needing me to be a certain way so that you can feel better law. But you have to understand, even in that intentionality, oh, hear this, you're going to like this so much. Even in that intentionality from Source, the reason that you come to sort of upset the apple cart of human conformity is not because you're trying to teach someone a lesson and not because you're trying to orient the world in some different way. It's that you're trying to show them that they are barking up the wrong tree when their happiness depends upon your conformity. Did you get that? That's what this source angel you is doing as you come forth. You're wanting the world to understand, or as many to understand as are willing to listen, that they are never going to find their joy if their joy is dependent on others changing behavior, because they cannot control. You will bankrupt yourselves. Sound familiar? In other words, in your determination to control the behavior of others, there's just not enough resources, because it's defying this huge core, primal existence law, you see. So let's put it into that context. From source energy, one might say, and not with words and not with the specifics that we're claiming it here to be, I'm going to go forth into physical, and I'm going to be different from the norm enough that they will not be able to pound me, this square peg, into this round hole in order to please themselves. I'm going to be different enough that I will give them an opportunity, if they might just care enough about loving me, that they might find a different approach to life. I might guide them back to their source in a way they didn't see coming.
That's excellent.
So in all of it, it's about joy, isn't it? Coming into the alignment with who you are. What happens often, whether it's the autism movement or the gay movement, so often it just becomes another battle. In other words, rather than a natural acceptance and loving of who I be or who you be, this need to make it different than it is what causes humanity to keep shooting itself in the foot. And we just don't think that it has ever been said more clearly than what you've evoked here today, that as source energy, you come forth for variety and expansion, not for sameness. And sameness is not your friend. Diversity is.
Excellent. I think I kind of know the answer to this, but I'm still going to ask it. If somebody came knowing that and their life experience caused them to want to change it, can they?
Yes, because as they come from non-physical with intention, now, as far as this physical body and beingness and consciousness is concerned, they are leading edge, where this environment evokes from them their strong desire. But the thing that is most interesting about that, so much first-time conversation here. The thing that is so essential to understand about that is that until out here on this leading edge, you find a way to align with the source within you, you don't make big changes. Let's see if we can say this in another way. This is very exciting conversation. So you get that your source energy, and when we say in your physical body, you're sending off these rockets of desire, that the source within you is literally vibrationally becoming, and that it is you coming into this vortex of creation that brings it into manifestation for you. So really what we're talking about is alignment with the large energy that is you. So let's frame this question up a little bit more specifically. So what your question really must be then, if what we just said is true, and it is, that it's alignment with source that is first necessary before manifestations occur, yes? So if that is true, and it is, then what that means is I could come forth with the intention of shaking things up a bit and helping people to realize that they're looking for love in all the wrong places and that conformity is not the name of the game. And I could so love them anyway. I could be so different than what they want me to be. But in my physical humanness, I push not against them at all. And I just live my life and send forth those rockets of desire. So now let's assume that your analogy is accurate, that someone who was born with autism or born gay now has made peace with everyone and now is sending forth a rocket of desire that they no longer want that. The thing that's tricky about that is that it's sort of defying their acceptance and they're making peace with who they are. So it's like you can't get back into the vortex if you got that kind of stuff going on. You follow what we were getting at?
Yeah, completely.
So let's lay out this concept in a way that you're really all getting it. So here you stand in your physical form and you've been banging around and you put all kinds of things in your vortex of creation. And let's say for sake of this analogy, they haven't manifested yet. So you've put a lot there, but you're standing over here and you're kind of depressed and bummed out about it. Things aren't going well for you. You're feeling discouraged. You're outside the vortex. So everything that we teach is to try to get you to get into the vicinity of the vortex. Let go of what's bothering you and let the vortex take you in. And because this is a universe based upon inclusion and attraction, not exclusion, the vortex, which is the dominant energy of who you are, is always calling you inward or homeward, so to speak. And so the fastest way to get into your vortex where you will feel wonderful and where you will then allow your manifestations to come to be is by making peace with what is. By making peace with what is. So the question really is, getting back to your important question, if you come totally into peaceful alignment with who you are, and the vortex takes you in, then the question is, inside this vortex, will you then become something else? Will you then become that something else that you were asking for outside the vortex? Oh, this is deep stuff. What you're really reaching for, and your question couldn't be deeper, is my intentionality from my source, does it reign supreme the whole time? Do those powerful and we say yes, but you got to understand, those intentions were general and broad, not specific like you want to make them out to be. You seek joy. In other words, those intentions are broad enough to encompass anything that this time-space reality causes you to carve out. If this time-space reality has the wherewithal to inspire a desire within you, this time-space reality has the wherewithal to deliver the goods to you. But you will never receive what you want unless you are in complete alignment with who you are. And so what happens is you become in alignment with who you are, and then those outside the vortex concerns fade away. And you find the joy, which is, as we said earlier, everything you want. The reason you want it is because you think you will feel better in the having of it. The reason people want those kinds of changes is because they want to please the peanut gallery.
Yeah.
And when you're in the vortex, the peanut gallery is irrelevant.
This is excellent in person. It's so much better in person. It really is.
Good time for a segment of this branch, Nisi.